But again, part of this whole thing is this, it's all connected. The Club of Rome is the eugenics arm of the New World Order. It is where they create the plans and the ideas that it's a think tank organization that works in concert with the foundations, the large foundations, the Rockefeller, the Ford Foundation, Carnegie Endowment, all of these foundations working together to quote unquote help with population problems and to help with the balance of the ecology and the life cycle on Earth and all of this really out there stuff where they're just really saying that we just need to reduce the population and so that they can have basically a manageable group of slaves that they can, they don't need us, ladies and gentlemen. That's the whole truth of the matter, is that Fritz Lang wasn't far off with saying with the workers being in the den in that movie from 1926, Metropolis, showing that the machines, be taking over of society. He was right on the money with that, and he was predicting it. It's not that he was predicting it; he had insight into the elites' plans, into their visions, where the workers are basically slaves, and they toil in the doldrums, they toil in the bowels of the earth, and those that are allowed to live, and the elite are in the tops, in the clouds, and living amongst the stars. Amen. That's what's going on. Well, the healthcare bill will fund state vaccine teams to conduct interventions in private homes. This was reported back in 2009 on CNS News, but I'm just bringing it to people's attention that they're doing this now. They're going around, especially by state funding, especially for kids that don't have that they're homeschooled. Homeschooled children, homeschooled families are now considered potential terrorists. If you don't get a vaccine, these DCF, when your child is born, the DCF will come to your house and they will try to take your child away because of endangering the welfare of a child, even though most of the childhood diseases that are associated and necessary for vaccines in the past have been eradicated through proper hygiene, through eradication of diseases such as polio is practically non-existent. In fact, they give it to people. They were caught, big pharma criminals, through this eugenics, these eugenists, giving polio to people in Africa, infecting them with it. Okay? So I speak what I know and I report what is true. Now, I'm not an expert on vaccines. I had a conversation on Facebook the other day with a good friend of mine, Dr. Jason Peccei, who is, slowly maybe beginning to really realize what he's reading and what he's learned and what he studies is all given to him by Rita Zellweger. It's all from the medical books that he studied in 1988 when he went to medical school and continued studying about vaccines through Lancet and Cell and all of the doctors that are discredited, like Dr. Andrew Wakefield, whose research actually is accurate, and they didn't retract the fact that it was accurate. They took his medical license away. Other doctors that are like DOs, they don't consider them. Oh, this was Dr. Tenpenny, who does research on this. Well, she's a doctor, but she's not an MD. Well, what about the 89 or 100 doctors that I reported on the other day that signed on that these are dangerous things to have? Jason, if you're watching, check out my postings on the vaccine. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send you the show that we did on vaccines. Just look into it on your own time. Don't go through those sources. Go to the actual places. Realize that this is literally a part of a eugenics conspiracy. I'm sorry, and not that you're a good doctor. You're a good friend, and we bat heads on this. We don't bat heads on many other of the issues. But what you got to understand, it's the same collective. Okay, it's the same thing. It's no different than these criminal bankers. Okay, that are trying to get away with stuff. This is reported that vaccines, when doctors have problems, only 10% of the time are they actually reported, because you'll call, your patients will call and say, yeah, he's got a little fever. Oh, that's normal. That's not normal. That's a reaction. Fever, aches, whatever. And 9 out of 10 times, yeah, it goes away with some aspirin. But that is actually a reaction. So you're going to tell the people the truth and tell them that most people actually do get some sort of a reaction or are affected by it. They don't just have nothing from it. And your body's attacking it. That's why. And you should know that. they're giving live and other viruses are contained in these things. Well, I mean, come on. Even if the science is good, do you trust the pharmaceutical company that's putting it in the vial? Well, personally, I don't, because they've been caught tampering with that, and the drugs are made in China. Food is made in China for children. Melamine and all that was caught in there, and they this is, you know, but they're complicit. People in the FDA are complicit. People in the CDC are complicit. People in the AMA are complicit. And even the DMA. Wow. Dental Association, the DA, whatever. All right. Now, physicians, speaking of physicians, this is from the AAPS. Physicians oppose mandatory flu vaccines for health workers. In a letter to Colorado public health officials, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons oppose a rule requiring workers in healthcare facilities to have an annual influenza vaccine or lose their jobs. Again, these collectivists this is tyranny. They're forcing you to put something in your body to keep your job. That's the New World Order. That's where it's going to go. You want to get your paycheck, you got to put a chip in your goddamn arm, and maybe we'll pay you this week. If you don't do this, you get no money. I mean, this is crazy. I know it sounds insane, but it is what they're planning to do. They have it in motion, ladies and gentlemen. It is happening. It is present tense, the New World Order. And it's closing down real quick. And that hot tyranny is only literally a gunshot away. That's all it is. Or a taser away, or a false flag attack away. And they'll probably blame sovereign people, constitutionalists, people like us that want to have freedom and liberty, truth, want to end this corruption that's bankrupting our children's futures and our own. Well, the more that people lose, and they will lose more, the more they will wake up and try to evaluate why and how they lost what they lost, and why things are going like this, and maybe say, well, these people, maybe they're not so crazy. Maybe, boy, everything they seem to be talking about ends up happening. Oh, God, wow. All these things are coming true, How do you think the truth movement grew to the size that it is? Because we speak the truth. We report the truth. And eventually, the truth will prevail. Will our nation? That's the question. Excuse me. As I said, coming off this upper respiratory infection that really kicked my ass for a few days. Excuse me. So, the workers who had rare religious or medical exemptions would be required to wear a mask in this thing, and the religious exemption was too narrowly drawn. And all these studies are all in there. People that have a philosophical exemption, like you just don't want it, there's no law that says you have to have it. It's not going to take your job. I'm very glad physicians are opposing this, because, again, medicine is a choice. You should choose your doctor. You should be able to choose your doctor. You should be able to choose the treatment that you get. And that includes alternative treatment. If you're getting alternative treatment, it should be covered by your health insurance. But no, it's not part of the big pharma fraud. They got to keep treating you with things that, see, the alternative medicines actually can cure you. They don't want you to be cured. In fact, on record, the head of the Association for the Pharmaceutical Industry, at their latest annual soiree, wherever the hell it was, in Boca Raton, said in front of thousands of people in the big pharma, our goal is to have every American on 2 pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, come on. This is a business, ladies and gentlemen. It's no longer about medicine. It's no longer about health care. Sure, there are great doctors. There is great medicines, important things, but it's over the top. It's not enough for them. They have to continue to keep producing new and what they consider better treatments. But all they really do is end up creating other side effects, as we all know, the lists, watching these movies, watching these commercials, that the side effects far outweigh the risks. I mean, I would rather, take a risk of getting whatever it is they want me to give me the pill for than get all these fucking side effects that are potential, that are life-threatening. And then you don't think that they're going to interact with, well, make sure, check out your drinking habits and check your liver. Like, really, people do this. Think about it. You go to your doctor, he gives you the drugs and whatever. Don't worry about it, this and this. Meanwhile, you don't know, you're drinking alcohol, you're whatever, you're eating something you shouldn't eat or whatever is going on. And you don't know how this is going to interact. They say, don't take alcohol with pills. Yeah, generally, right? That's your answer. But you don't know how these things interact. And they always have commercials how the pharmacist saves the day by catching this interaction that you would have had. I mean, that's just bullshit. That's just to say that they're doing something. Do you really know, if you look into the studies, how many people the pharmaceutical industry kill from reactions a year? Like 250,000 people die from pharmaceutical reactions a year. It's no joke. Look it up. It's also a form of this eugenics. Putting adjuncts in vaccines. This is also why I'm against the vaccines, because the Rockefeller Foundation went on record in 4 different annual reports that they're piggybacking vaccines and putting sterilants in the vaccines. And I'll talk about the AIDS. Since I'm on this, I had this one little spot here about AIDS, going from the Club of Rome. AIDS is man-made. And this is by William Cooper, who, of course, was murdered shortly after 9/11. He actually predicted 9/11 and said that Osama bin Laden would be blamed for it and it would be a fraud, and the CIA. He had a lot of he had the best intelligence that you could have without being in the military. He had a private intelligence sources that were incredible. Liberty-minded libertarian people that were in a circle such as the same circles as Larry P. McDonald, who was also murdered, who had a contingency plan in the event that this communist fascist takeover of government occurred, as it is occurring, that he had generals and people and about 500,000 men under those people to protect and take back the government, literally, to storm the White House, storm the Capitol, everything, take over the government to preserve the Constitution. Now that's radical. Well, that's deadly to the New World Order. But you know what? I mean, isn't that what we need to do? I mean, really, when it basically comes down to it, ladies and gentlemen, people serving in the military of all ranks and files, people serving in the police, people in positions of authority and power who are waking up. What do? When do you see the tyranny and recognize it? What will it take for the American public to wake up and recognize the tyranny that we're under? How evil does it have to get? Because it's going to get evil. Our government gave AIDS, okay, as a bioweapon to Africa to depopulate the African community. I'm going to go over this thing. I'm going to actually read it. It's very important, and it will dovetail us into the Club of Rome. I do have some other news, and maybe we'll just dig into the Club of Rome. Maybe I'll get back to the news a little later. We'll see how that goes. All right. The first study was made on AIDS in 1957 by scientists meeting in Huntsville, Alabama. The study resulted in Alternative 3. Another study was made by the Club of Rome in 1968 to determine the limits to growth. The result of the study was that civilization as we knew it would collapse shortly after the year 2000 unless population was seriously curtailed. Several top-secret recommendations were made to ruling elite by Dr. Aurelio Peccei of the Club of Rome. Now, he founded the Club of Rome. He's from Fiat, the CEO of Fiat. He actually suffered under horrific tyranny. He was a truther. In his own time, interestingly enough, he's a turncoat, because he fought fascism. He was in the resistance against the Nazis. He was tortured. He was imprisoned, tortured by the fascist Nazis, and then he ends up becoming an eco-fascist. It's just unbelievable. The chief recommendation was to develop a microbe, listen to this, which would attack the autoimmune system and thus render development of a vaccine impossible.